Hey folks, this is Keough with a new training video for you. You're going to see two sessions. The first one was a bench press session, the second one was a squat session. They were both pretty good sessions. I've been running a really nice wave of successful sessions, which has started at the beginning of last week and has carried through into this week. For my bench press session, I did 2 top sets, 5 repetitions apiece with 280 pounds. Really should have selected 275 because the exertion was just a little bit higher than I wanted for these, but I was still really happy with the weight and still really happy with where I am on my progression. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing 275 for 2 sets of 3, and that didn't feel terribly easy, and so I can tell that my bench press is feeling substantially better in a short amount of time. I still have a ways to go before I am as strong as I would like to be, but I would say that my bench press right now is in that max of 320 to 330, somewhere in that range. Pretty comparable, if not very slightly ahead of where I was going into the last meet, and that's a nice starting point going into the next few weeks of training. I am reaching the most serious portion of my training for Unity, and my supplementation is really going to increase as of this Saturday. The large majority of the progress that I am going to see is still ahead of me. My guess is at least 90% of the progress that I see is still ahead of me. And so the numbers are really going to start to pick up. My guess in about 2 weeks from now will be when things start to pick up, and then things will be moving up pretty quickly from that point on. Weight is doing pretty well. I've been waking up at around 156 to 157 pounds. I haven't been quite as low as the 155 that I was weighing for about a week. I've been bringing my calories down pretty low for the last almost week of training, and so I ended up increasing my carbs for tonight, because going into this squat session, the bar speed moved fine and the reps themselves were easy, but I felt shaky and weak from the beginning to the end. I think it was a matter of just pushing my dieting for a little bit too long, and so I didn't necessarily bring up the calories after the session, but I did change my macros and increase my carbs. I basically just sat down and ate some ice cream for dinner and enjoyed it, because I'm not going to have too many opportunities to do that. But I guess that's what I get to do if I go in and train on under 1,000 calories for the day. And so I was happy with the sets of 10. This was 330. I ended up doing 4 sets of 10. I kept watching the sets after I performed them, and they looked infinitely easier than they felt. The reps themselves don't feel hard. Holding the bar on my back and trying to catch my breath and keep my breath from the first rep to the 10th rep, that's really the hard part here. I'm really starting to breathe heavy, and I'm really starting to struggle with maintaining tightness on my squats. The squats themselves are easy though, and I was happy with the bar speed watching the sets. I just decided that it wasn't worth doing the 5th set. I do have to deadlift tomorrow. I suppose I could push it back until Thursday, but on week 1 I really shouldn't be in a position where I have to push anything back. So I decided to keep it to 4 sets, and we'll see about the progression. We'll see how I feel later in the week. The plan was to go up to 345 for the final week. I think that it's doable. I don't think the weights themselves are going to be a problem, and I don't think I'm going to fail because anything's too heavy. Again, the weights feel easy. I think it's a matter of just seeing how my conditioning with all of these variables, my dieting and my weight and my training, which is really starting to pick up, seeing how my conditioning handles all those different variables. I think that that'll determine the total volume that I subject myself to later in this week. I'd love to go in and do 345 for 5 sets of 10, but that's not necessarily going to be the best thing for my training. I'm really just going to let it be dictated by how I feel, and so if I end up just doing 4 sets or even 3 sets, I'll be just fine with that. So overall, happy but not ecstatic with this particular training session. My strength is feeling good and it is making progress. Again, after this weekend, my numbers are really going to start to, in the coming weeks, that's when they're really going to start to pick up. I have a pretty good idea of where I stand right now, and I have a pretty good idea of where I need to go for Unity, and so it'll be very interesting to see how my numbers develop over the coming weeks, and I am going to track and log everything so that I have a record of the progression, and so that everybody who's interested can see the progression as well, because this is the first time for me that I'm going to see this sort of a progression, and I want to monitor it as closely as possible so that I make the results as measurable as they possibly can be. Anyway, that's basically all I have. I am going to go ahead and do a deadlift training video tomorrow after I do my session. I'll be squatting and bench pressing once again this week, and I'll be deadlifting again on Sunday, so I will have more training videos. Keep checking in. I'll have more for you very soon.